Hi guys, I'm Bobsi, and this is the second devlog of my unnamed game. The game I'm building is a survival and colony simulation type game in the style of Medieval Dynasty. Now, I have gotten a lot of really good names from you guys in the comments, but none that I really felt like fit the vision of the game that I'm making. So, I want to run a little bit of a contest. I want you to let me know what the game name should be, and if I end up choosing your name, you will be the first game tester of the game. Now that being said, it's gonna be a while before we even start game testing, but I think this is a fun experiment, and I'm interested to see what you guys come up with. Let's get into the devlog, shall we? The first thing I want to talk about is actually the finite state machine that I set up last time for the NPCs. Now, I was really proud of this, but the comments didn't really hold back on letting me know exactly how stupid I was. I didn't realize how many different types of state machines there was, and that I picked the most primitive one. I should definitely have done more research beforehand, but luckily the comments could let me know of what's called goal-oriented action planning and behavior trees, which were two I've looked really closely into. Now, as you can see on screen right now, I've run tests of both of them. On the left side, you're seeing goal-oriented action plan. On the left side, you're seeing goal-oriented action planning, or GOAP. And on the right side you're seeing behavior trees. And I did this to try and test how much do I like working with them and which one am I going to choose. I'm not going to make a decision right now, but just letting you guys know that this is something that I'm working on, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys comment about this as well, and maybe that's something I'm completely missing. Another thing that I'm also taking into consideration is how do I network these states and how do I do this the best way possible. So this is really where I stand with this. Now let's move on to the building system. Now, you might have noticed in the first video that every single time you built anything that was a part of a house, it would lag the game, and this is actually because it was building the nav mesh for the NPCs. Now, in the future, I would like to fix this lagging completely, but at least I've done a temporary fix now that allows me to only build the mesh for the parts of the house that actually needs to have a mesh built, like the foundation, the doorway, and the stairs, whereas the walls and the roof don't actually need to build a mesh. We've also set up a brand new inventory system and adapted the building to this. I'll get more into this later on. Now, there's also a big issue actually with working with fishnet networking is it doesn't actually handle nested objects very well. This basically means that if the object that I want to despawn is a child, such as the ghost wall that I want to replace with the real wall, I want to despawn the ghost wall, and this is actually really difficult through fishnet networking, and I had to do a workaround, but this does all work now as well through the multiplayer network. And then at last I've also set up a town limitation system, which just allows you to not build too far away from the existing structures that you already have as part of the town. This is a way to be able to keep the town feeling more like, well, a town. And now, oh boy, for the inventory system. I remade this 3 times. I tried setting up different inventory systems, didn't like how they were to work with, and I actually ended up completely revamping it and making my own from scratch. Now, I have not worked with the inventory system before, but I'm actually really happy with how this turned out. Now, the inventory itself is actually working in a type of list format. In this list, you can currently select the one that you want to see, and you can see more details about it, but in the list view, you can also just see the name, the quantity of the item, and the weight of the item. And I'll get more into that about weight in a second. All the items are set up as scriptable objects, so it's super easy for me to set up new objects. We've also obviously added picking up of items and adding these to the inventory, and also the objects spawn when you try and drop them again by right-clicking on them. And then, as I mentioned with the weight, we've made weight-based movement, which means that you actually have a max amount of weight that you can carry. If you are above this weight, you will start slowing down until you eventually stop completely, and we can also decide how big this factor is. This is actually a system that I've seen in Escape from Tarkov as well, which is something I really like. This system is working 100% perfectly, and I can guarantee you that you are absolutely not walking backwards if you put on too much weight. I've also set up equipping tools, and this actually turned out to be a much bigger problem than I thought it was going to be. Because I thought, since I already had the whole inventory set up and I've set up an action bar now, which you can switch between 1, 2, and 3, or you can scroll with the mouse wheel as well. I thought, well, I just got to spawn the object that it has in its hand. But this goes back to the fishnet issue, or the networking issue that I had with nested objects. I couldn't actually control them because they were nested to the player, and this was a big issue. Now, I did find out a workaround, but this actually cost me about 2 days of development to just try and figure out how do I get around this. I got around it very briefly by setting up a manager on the player himself that actually manages these and pushes out the reference through an integer on the list. If you're interested, I know this is very nerdy, but let's move on. As you might notice up here in the top right corner as well, I've set up health, hunger, and stamina. The player loses hunger over time, and when he is too low on hunger, he will actually start losing health. Just I guess how you would expect it. And I've also set up the stamina system, so when you sprint, you use stamina, and when you're out of stamina, you can't sprint or jump. Now, one thing that I'm actually really proud of is that a lot of the variables in the game, and especially the stats on the players and the NPCs, is actually controlled by the time that also controls the day-night cycle. So that means that it doesn't matter if the day-night cycle is real life 60 minutes or real life 10 minutes. It doesn't matter. If you lose 75% of your hunger during the day, it doesn't matter how long the day actually is in real life. And I think this is a really smart way to keep everything connected and matching up. Now on to the last point. Since this is a colony simulation game, obviously the colony is a really important part, and I want you guys to help me to figure out how this is gonna work. Obviously, I know how I feel like the NPCs should interact with the world, that they should be able to set up what they do themselves as much as possible, so there's not a lot of micromanagement left for the player. What I do need to figure out is, how is the villagers or the NPCs spawned? Do we want the houses themselves to spawn the NPCs, or the villagers, if we should call them that? Do we want to do it like they do in Medieval Dynasty, where you have to go and talk to people from other towns and you can have them join your town instead? Or a third system that I thought about, which I actually thought was really cool, is that you have to make your town more attractive. So the more attractive your town is, the more people are going to start wanting to move into it. So let's say that you have a lot of available housing, you have excess food, you have excess resources, you have workplaces, and this makes them actually want to move into your town. I thought this was also kind of a cool system. But I'm really interested in you guys' ideas and your guys' view on this as well. And the last thing I just want to touch on is, I honestly just want to say thank you. There's really not much more for me to say. I'm going to continue working on the game, but the support I've gotten, the amount of subscribers that I've gotten in no time, the amount of likes that I had, and just the absolutely awesome comments, it's been absolutely amazing. I've had quite a few people as well join my Discord server and be really active in that, and it's all just been really motivating. I've never had support at this level before, and I actually never expected this to go so well. I was thinking if everything went well, my last video would get maybe 1,000 views, and I think at this point it's above the 23,000 views, and this is really crazy to me. This community in general of game development just seems to be super supportive, super nice, and I'm so happy to be able to be a part of that, and hopefully be a positive part of it as well. And yeah, so thank you so much, guys. And as I always end my videos, a like is much appreciated, a subscription is much appreciated, and have a wonderful day.